This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Welcome to Journeys with Joni. My name is Joni Rametta, and I'm here today with my co-host, Mark Clark.
Morning, Joni. How are we doing today?
I'm good today. How are you?
I'm excited.
You are?
I'm very excited. I'm always excited to be on the radio with you. It's a lot of fun.
You're excited about being on the radio with me. You're not excited about the topic?
Well, I'm excited about the topic too,
good.
But, you know.
Well, we got to do both.
I know. But it's a lot of fun to do the topic with you on the radio.
Well, thank you very much. I'm actually having fun too. Can you believe that we started this, in January, and here we are in June, and we're still doing it?
Yeah, they haven't thrown us off the air yet.
No, they haven't thrown us off, and we like each other still, too.
I know. That's a good thing. What are we talking about today? What's the show about?
The show is about journeys with Joni, finances, on the journey together to the road to where people want to go. Where do you want to go? Where's your journey taking you? You know,
I sat down the other day with a new person, and he said, "What do you guys do that makes you any different than anybody else?" I said, "Yeah, that's a great question. I have no idea." No, that's not what I said. I said, that's a great question. I said, you have a couple businesses. Mm-hmm. You have a portfolio. You have a couple kids. You have some insurance. You have some stuff, some financial stuff.
Right.
I said, "Where are you going with all this?" He said, "I never thought about it that way." But he also said that he's new to the area and that he just started working. I'm not going to mention the institution's name. He started working with a firm that is let's just say they probably have a sign on the corner in front of their business somewhere. But he started working with them. And, he seemed a little, not so much interested in necessarily making any type of change. So I continued the conversation with him about how all the things, and I know we're going to talk about tax efficiency today. Mm-hmm. I let the cat out of the bag there.
Thank you.
Sorry, I stole your thunder, didn't I?
No, it's okay.
So we started talking about all the things that he has in his life. In the end,
right.
Where are you going with all this? And
exactly.
I said to him, where are you going? And how do all of these things that you have an impact on where you're going? And we talked for a little over an hour. And when we finished the conversation, he looked at me and he goes, this other place that I went, they gave me all these things that you talked about, but they were all independent and separate.
Right.
And I never thought about how they all work together. And I said, "You mean kind of like the car all works together to get you to the destination?" He goes, "You're exactly right." He said, "You really have me intrigued. I never thought about it that way. Everything goes in concert together." And oftentimes people don't think about that.
Well, working with a lot of women that we do in our office too, there's a lot of components that they at some point in time, they become single most of the time because us women are outliving you men.
That ain't going to happen in my house.
And we come, we come to a place where we get all these things, but we don't know what they all are supposed to do and what their purpose is. So it's really important that we take an inventory of what we have. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the best things that we do when we do our planning is, an inventory of what do you have and where is it? Not that you're looking to make any changes, not that you're looking to say, oh, this is good or bad or whatever, but have you ever sat down and just had an inventory of what you have?
Yeah. Last week we talked about the uses of money, the 5 uses of money.
Right.
And taking the inventory is the beginning step of putting you in the driver's seat of managing those 5 areas that you can use money. They're like tools. Money is simply a tool. It's not the accumulate. You're not going to take it with you.
No, you're not.
And we've had Bob Collins on the show from National Christian Foundation, and his comment, I loved the comment. He said, every dollar that you have control of today, someday someone else will have control of that dollar.
That's right.
And how much good, how many people can you put in control of those dollars that you've been entrusted with that are going to continue to do good with the dollar? You have that opportunity.
Right. Just to recap what we talked about last week, there's 5 uses of money: lifestyle, taxes, debt, investments, and your giving. So lifestyle would be your, the way you live. Mm-hmm. Taxes, we all end up paying. Some portion of, but we can control some of that a little bit. Debt is, something that we purposely take on. You don't get into debt without making a choice to do that. Investments, our retirement accounts and our real estate and things like that, and our giving, which we talked about too quite a few times about, how do you give to those things that you're passionate about? And I think the important thing is that, we're all on a journey. The day you were born, you started a journey, and it's going to end at your death.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know when that's going to be.
No,
so we need to know what we want it to look like. If we could live as long as we could, what differences do you want to make, and what do you want to happen? And you're right. You've got $1 today. Who's going to take care of that when you're gone?
Exactly.
Is it going to go to, the government? Is it going to go to a charity? Is it going to go to your kids? And how are they going to control that stuff?
So you said government. I know that the reason I love this radio show so much is because we get the opportunity to really talk about, we do have a lot of women that we work with, but it's that emotional side, and us guys tend to, blow past that because mathematically we can fix any problem that exists. At whatever cost. But taxation is actually an element that you can plan. You can use it to your benefit if you do it correctly. And we're at the end of this first segment of our show. We're not going to go deep in this segment. We will the next segment. But the taxation is actually something you can plan with, and I think that's a powerful thing.
I think anytime you can plan anything, it gives you more power, and the more power and the more awareness we have of things, the better off you're going to feel.
You're right. I was in a workshop in Chicago a couple weeks ago, and a survey company around the financial services area surveyed investors, surveyed what we would call our clients, and the topic. Let me build the demographic for you. It was people that have anywhere from $100,000 to $5 million of investable assets. That means they have an investment account between $100,000 and $5 million. That's the demographic, and they are 5 years pre-retirement. So they're looking to retire in the next 5 years, or they're already retired. The number one topic for 40%. The number one topic for 40% of all of those people was taxation, and how do taxes implicate or impact them. And we're going to talk about how that is a tool that you can manage inside your investment portfolio. How can you be tax efficient in your investment portfolio? And then what does that tax efficiency do to your portfolio return? We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But before we go deep in all that juicy stuff, how can they find us?
You can find us at www.journeyswithjoni.com. We're located at 6230 University Parkway, Suite 305. That's the Home Bank building right there at the corner of I-75 and University Parkway. And you can give us a call at 941-361-1484. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. Just before the break, Mark and I were discussing taxation. And actually, I got
to meet this Mike guy.
I know. I don't know why I say that. Isn't that funny?
I know. You're looking at the mic. You're thinking it's me, and I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's
that's crazy.
It's part of being human. You're stuck on that.
I thought you were going to let it slide by this time, but you didn't do that.
I would never do that.
I know. I should have known better.
We needed some humor. We're talking about taxation today. We got to have some laughs.
It's not funny, is it? No. Well, we've been talking about the uses of money, and one of those is that we all pay taxes.
Unfortunately, we do.
Payroll taxes. We pay taxes. Actually, you'll pay taxes probably when you exit the earth, when you die. So there's some taxation that can occur at death. But between now and then, we're investing. We're doing things with our money. And one of the things that we can do at NEPSIS Capital Management is that we actually do investing with taxation in mind.
Absolutely. A tax efficient portfolio. You mentioned a lot right there in that statement. Even the good book tells us to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but it doesn't say, give him more than his fair share. So, you should know the rules. You should know what's available to you. So let's talk about being tax efficient in an investment portfolio. I started the radio show talking about a gentleman that came in and talked to me a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And he and I were talking about the tax efficiency of a portfolio, and he goes, I did that. And I said, oh, tell me your story. I think this is a great story. And we have the ability to do this in your portfolio, and then I'll elaborate a little bit. He said, I was moving from another community to here, and I had to sell my home in order to move at a loss. And he goes, it was the best loss I ever had. I said, well, this is unusual to have with a conversation with somebody.
Most people wouldn't think that.
No, it wouldn't at all. He goes, but that loss, I was going to sell the house anyway, that paper tax loss allowed me to take the gains in an investment that I made inside my investment portfolio and not pay taxes on that gain. So that was a great deal. This was a transaction that was going to happen anyway, and here I had the opportunity to harvest some gains inside my investment portfolio. So let's kind of take that apart just a little bit. You have an investment portfolio, let's just say it's worth $100,000. And if that $100,000 investment portfolio has a whole bunch of investments in it, and pieces of that portfolio have gains, and pieces of that portfolio have losses,
right?
And the current value is a gain and a current value is a loss. If we put the gain and the loss position both in cash, the net portfolio change is zero, but the taxation is also zero because my loss has offset my gain. As opposed to if I say, well, I don't want to sell anything that has lost money in my investment portfolio because I don't want to lose the money. Well, that loss can then turn around and be purchased back into in 31 days, can purchase that same company that's at a loss or purchase a company in a similar, environment or call it sector or in the same,
in the same business,
same type of business. So, you're in a position where you can reinvest, but you've locked in some gains without paying any taxes. And when you do that, that doesn't show up anywhere on your portfolio return. So if that doesn't show up anywhere, typically people don't realize how impactful that is to their portfolio. However, you've not sent one penny to the IRS in that transaction. So by you not sending that penny to the IRS, where does it stay? It stays in
my account.
In your account, continues to work for you, and it's a powerful, powerful tool that will work for you in a positive way over time. And I just think that's, in many portfolios, you don't have that flexibility. And, we've talked about the 4 key components of NEPSIS Capital Management. That's the management division of our company. But the flexibility component, the flexibility to efficiently manage your individual portfolio in a tax-efficient way and keep you from paying taxes on your gains is huge. You keep the use of your money and you don't send it to Washington, D.C. And I just think that's powerful.
It is powerful. And, when you have an investment account with NEPSIS Capital Management, it's transparent too. You see exactly what you own. It's much different than having a portfolio of, like, let's say a bunch of mutual funds where, you can't control what's going on in the mutual funds because a whole bunch of other people are in those funds as well.
Right. Invert the conversation. Let's say, or not the conversation, invert the fact pattern. Let's say you have an investment real estate property that has grown and you want to sell that, and now you're going to pay taxes on the gain. If we have paper losses, if we have companies in your portfolio, and at NEPSIS we own 25 to 35 companies, so let's just say odds are there are a few of the companies that you own in your portfolio that are probably going to be at a loss on paper. You could recognize a loss in your investment portfolio to offset a gain you had in that real estate because both of them are passive income. It's not your job. So you can offset a real estate gain with a loss in your investment portfolio. And we have the ability to do this. But I think the important thing is, so I'll come back to what we've been talking last week and now this week, is planning. is if you don't have a plan, you can't do this after the fact. You can't say,
no, you can't wait until January 1st and go, oh, I should have done this, because it's too late.
Right. So people perish for lack of knowledge. So,
right. So it's all about taking an inventory. Take an inventory of what you have on paper. Let's put it all on paper. You've got a piece of real estate. All of us know whether or not our real estate is at a profit or a loss.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Especially those of us who live in Florida, right? Some of us are coming still up from a loss to, hopefully we're all going to someday break even.
Yeah.
But you have an idea on where you are. You know how much you paid for it. You know about how much it's worth. That can all calculate into stuff, because when you're going to make decisions, you need to make decisions based on the facts that you have. And if you've never taken an inventory, you're not going to be able to make those kind of decisions. And
I know we're coming up on a break, but if you're that investor, you have a portfolio and you are sticking to your game plan. You're saying, I'm going to stay invested. I like the way things are going right now. And at the end of the year, you're paying taxes and you haven't intentionally sold something and you're getting these phantom taxes. We're going to talk about that taxation and how we can change that when we come back into the investment portfolio, when we come back from the break.
Well, taxes are not something that we want to pay. So let's see what we can talk about in the next section. Journeys with Joni, JONI.com, or give us a call at 941-361-1484. We're located at 6230 University Parkway, Suite 305, which is the Home Bank building. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. Just before the break, Mark and I were discussing taxes and some tax planning that we're able to do with the portfolios that we manage, or that Mark Pearson actually manages for us. Looking at taking some losses to offset some gains, taking an inventory of everything that you have so that you know where you stand tax-wise, I think is very important. We all know whether or not our portfolios are, making money or losing a little bit money. Within that portfolio, you could have some gains and some losses. And then real estate, we have real estate that may be at a gain or a loss. You're going to make a move. You're going to transition from one town to another town, from one state to another state. You're going to have to make some sales to do some things, and how important it is to do some of that tax planning ahead of time, because you can't do it after the fact.
I love stories. We had a person that's now a client of ours that I talked to as they were becoming clients, and I said, I wish I would have met you and had the opportunity to work with you before you exited or made some business changes. Mm-hmm. And the person said, yeah, I had some advisors. Well, I had an opportunity to put this person through a workshop, a session, if you will, and we got an opportunity to go deeper in what we do. And he came back to me, he says, I now understand what you meant when you said, I wish you would have talked to me before I made this transaction. He goes, I now agree. And I wish I would have talked to you before that.
Right.
So, it doesn't cost you anything to come sit down and talk with us.
No. And I think it's really important that, you understand that it doesn't matter how much that you have. Everybody has something, and, money has only 5 uses. And so it's important that you know where your money is being used and where it's going. And if you don't know, you should know. And not knowing is not really a bad thing, because, we're all busy with life. So, I didn't know where all my stuff was going. This isn't something that we were born with, you and I, Mark. This is a learned habit. This is a learned process that you figure out where your money is coming from, where it's going to, and, are you happy with what's happening? I mean, if you're happy with how it's happening, that's great. If you're not happy, you need to make some changes, and you need to make them sooner than later, because we're only here for a certain period of time, and we only have so much money that we can do things with.
Absolutely. Joni, one of the things you and I really don't do, and we're both uncomfortable with this, is telling people about some of our credentials. And we're both certified financial planners. And, for us, as just talking on the radio, yeah, we have the designation, but for the listener, we spend a lot of time in getting ourselves educated. And both of us come from a mindset of we love making positive results in people's lives. I'm more interested in that than, if I can make a positive result and you have, $100,000, I'm more excited to work with you than if I can't make a positive result and you have $10 million. It's just the way we're wired. It's about the people. And, I know we're talking about taxation and investment and having a tax-efficient investment portfolio. Taxes are optional.
They are optional.
You can give everything you have away. You won't pay a dime of taxes.
Right.
But now you're coming back and you're going, well, wait a minute. I still have my lifestyle. I still have these people that like to show up and eat at my house all the time. I like to go places and I like to live. So now you have to come back to the tax efficiency. And before, in the last segment, before this last break, we were talking about that investor that has their portfolio invested and just saying, I'm going to stay the course, and dagnabbit, at the end of the year, I get this tax bill. I haven't made any changes, but I get a phantom tax bill because you have a mutual fund-based portfolio and you have no flexibility in that. So what has happened is people that have a similar investment or invested in the same funds that you're invested in have made a decision to exit or sell things because for one reason or another, they need cash, and their transaction has impacted you in the tax bucket. So you need to send them a thank you note and tell them, hey, I'm glad you affected me in the taxation bucket. Would you mind sending me a check for the taxes I owe because you got, had a decision that you made that benefited you, but was negative for me. That's huge. We have the ability to eliminate that in our clients' investment portfolios. And I get a little passionate about that.
Well, that's because our portfolios are individually owned businesses. We're flexible and we're transparent. You know exactly what you own. In a mutual fund, you can't see through what is actually in the mutual fund. So
no, you can't.
And therefore you can't control it. And your cost basis and your taxations are caused by the actions of other people. So
don't let that tail wag the dog anymore. You need to take control of it.
Exactly.
And there are multiple kinds of taxes. You mentioned this earlier on in the show. There are payroll taxes.
Right.
I mentioned a conversation I had, I think this was last week, we were talking about this, a young person. I talked to them about making sure that they've got their W-4 filled out correctly so they're not sending in more money than what they need to. You have payroll taxes. You have property taxes. You have sales taxes. You have income taxes. And then if you are fortunate enough to amass an estate, you could have a potentially estate, or we call it a death tax. Fortunately, in the state of Florida, we don't have a state death tax, so that's really one of the reasons why a lot of wealthy people move here, amongst some other things. But, again, it comes back to what you're talking about, Joni. People need to know an inventory, and without an inventory, you don't know which taxes are impacting you in a more severe way than some of the others.
Well, and you don't realize it because you're living life and you're not looking at all those kind of things. So by taking an inventory, by allowing us to help you take that inventory, sitting down with us, it's a complimentary visit. We can just have a brief conversation about where you are, what you're thinking, make sure the personality is all mixed, that, you like us and that we like you, and that, like Mark said, we do want to make a difference. So if we can make a difference, we can continue the conversation and we can take that inventory, figure out what buckets all of your things fit into, because, there's those 5 uses of money: lifestyle, taxes, debt, investments, and giving.
So we've talked about this in other shows, but I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask it on behalf of the listener. The listeners out there going, I have a CPA that I already work with, so I'm good. Why are we different than working with a CPA in most cases?
Well, I think in most cases, when do you go see your CPA? How often are you sitting down with your CPA? You're seeing your CPA on January 1st or later, prior to April 15th. The year's already over with. There's no planning. It's all in the rearview mirror. There's nothing that can be done to change it.
Your CPA will actually love us.
Actually, yes. And we have a lot of CPAs we work with. And we work with attorneys too. So, it's not, it's professionals working with professionals for your benefit.
So it's time to put the A team to work for you. Put us on your team. Come interview us. Come kick the tires. Come visit us. Come see if we're really as fun as we are on the radio in person. We are. Probably more fun. don't have this microphone stuck in our face. But anyway, I know we're out of time, so tell these people how to find us. Where can they come visit us and check us out?
Well, Journeys with Joni, JONI.com is the website. You can go there to see blog information. You can go there to see some pieces we're putting out. You can look for workshops that are coming up, Investing with Clarity workshops, where we actually discuss how exactly NEPSIS Capital Management would manage your money. You can come see us at 6230 University Parkway. That's the Home Bank building at the corner of University and I-75. And you can give us a call at 941-361-1484. Journeys with Joni. We'll be back next week. Until then, thanks for listening.
This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC registered investment advisor.